Hello everyone, welcome to another non-gaming video. It is nearly the end of 2021 and I just wanted to do a little rundown of my favourite films that came out this year. I had a lot to choose from, it turns out. And this isn't scripted, though I do have the synopsis of a couple of the movies up on the screen in front of me because I need to refresh my memory a little bit. Some of these were from way earlier in the year. One of them was even from 2020. Although it didn't come out in the UK until 2021, so I'm counting it. I'm counting it as a 2021 movie because of weird COVID restrictions and changing release dates and all of that business. But these are not intended to be any sort of reviews on these films. These are simply just why I enjoyed them, pretty much. I feel like reviewing a film would take me a long time and a lot more words. And why say lot words when few words do trick? So I'm just going to run down my 5-ish favourite films that I saw this year that also came out in this year, apart from the aforementioned other one that came out last year, but only in the US. So, we'll get there when we get there. But anyway, I thought we'd get into it. And also, I'll probably do one of these videos for top 5-ish TV shows from this year as well, because there's a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of good stuff this year, which is really brilliant. So let's get into it with number 1. I'm going to pause the introduction just one more time to say that these aren't really in any particular order. Just about. They're all very good. Anyway, let's get started. So number 1, after that lengthy intro, is a Korean space western film called Space Sweepers. You might have spotted this on Netflix if you're in the UK. It was up at the start of the year. I'm not sure if it still is, actually. I'll have to check on that. But it is a sci-fi film from South Korea with a very small budget. The budget was around $20 million, which obviously is a lot of money, but not for a film of this kind of scope. And I've got to say, they had no reason to go as hard as they did on the CGI because it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. It's a gorgeous movie to look at, and I really enjoyed it. It's got sort of middling ratings on a lot of different websites, but for me anyway, I thought it was well worth a watch. I love sci-fi stuff, I love space stuff, brilliant things. So essentially the premise is it's this crew of misfits, as most good movies start. It's always a crew of misfits. And essentially their job is cleaning up space junk from around the Earth so people can safely launch from the Earth, obviously. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Elysium, because it's this whole plot about these rich CEOs and rich companies building a more habitable space above the Earth for people of a higher stature, people with more money, and obviously it's the future. Earth is dying. Earth is dying right now, but this film's set around the 2090s and it's not going well. So basically, the rich start building this more hospitable area for them to live in above the planet, and our crew of misfits have to clean up, basically. Hence the name Space Sweepers. I think it's called something different in Korea. I think it's called Spaceship Victory, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it's a really lovely little movie. Essentially, the crew are out cleaning one day and they find a girl in a car. I can't quite remember how the car got into space, but, you know, it's the future. It could happen. And they take in the girl and eventually find out who she is and try to get a ransom for her, or try to negotiate to hand her back to where she should be. However, obviously, all doesn't go to plan, and they have a villain played by a Brit, because we always play villains, apparently. And he's trying to get a hold of her because she's not really what she seems. But it's a brilliant film. Like I said, it's absolutely beautiful. I'm showing a few screenshots and stuff of it. I was just going to show the trailers for these movies, but I don't think I could really get away with that. I think YouTube would beat my ass with a wooden spoon if I started showing movie trailers inside of another video on what is a very small channel. I don't think that would go well for me. But Space Sweepers, great little film. It's fairly short, fairly average length, and like I said, it's on Netflix, and hopefully still is on Netflix as of the release of this video. Otherwise, I'm going to look very stupid. But give it a go. Okay, the second film is a comedy called Palm Springs. This is the film I was talking about in the intro, which actually came out in 2020 in the US, but I guess because of COVID restrictions and all that other nonsense, it kind of took a while to get to other markets, which included the UK, which is how I eventually watched it in around, I think it was like April 2021, April this year. And it's a time loop movie, which I feel like from the games I've streamed this year, I seem to be stuck in a time loop myself, because that's the only kind of games I've been playing recently, apparently. But essentially, his character keeps waking up at a wedding in Palm Springs, and I don't think they ever go into how long he's been there, but he's essentially living the wedding day over and over and over again, and he's been doing that for quite some time. And in one of the loops, the bride's sister, who also does not want to be there, happens upon him in the middle of, I suppose, re-looping, and after a whole argument and him, well, not really trying to explain it, basically trying to get her away, she ends up getting pulled into the time loop as well. And as they're both stuck in it, it's one of those films where they eventually find a kind of romance and a kind of friendship, although she is absolutely furious at the fact that she's being pulled into this loop with him. For obvious reasons, I probably would be too. There's also a great appearance from J.K. Simmons, who plays another wedding guest, who is also dragged into it. And he's this really odd character where, obviously he's absolutely furious at being pulled into the time loop, but a lot of the loops he keeps out of it, and he's somewhere else with his family. But on some of the loops, he kind of gets a bit pissed off and travels back to Palm Springs, essentially to play the most dangerous game and hunt down Andy Samberg's character, usually with a crossbow. So he turns up throughout the film every now and then, and it's just a treat. I love J.K. Simmons, he's brilliant, and he's brilliant in this. But I just really like this movie. Like, it's the kind of film that I bet you've seen before. You know, it's kind of predictable, and obviously with it being a time loop, they're really going after the Groundhog Day effect, which, by the way, also a fantastic film. But this was just a very colourful, very fun, very funny film as well. I don't think I've ever seen it where they've had a time loop and someone else has been dragged into it. And it happens twice in this movie, so I mean, that's got to say something, right? But yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's a very, very pretty film. Like, it's not mind-blowing cinematography, but just because of the sets and sort of locations they film at, it's just very colourful and just very nice to look at, as well as great performances and some really good chemistry between the characters in it as well. So definitely recommend that one. Okay, this next one is a really hard one to talk about, because I don't really know how to recommend it, I just know that I should. But I feel like most people already saw this one. It was an absolute phenomenon this year, and it's a comedy musical called Inside by Bo Burnham, and it's pretty special, to be honest. I feel it's all about him being trapped in his house during quarantine, which all of us were over the last, I don't know, it's still going. You know what? It's still going. But yeah, it's super, super interesting, and it's really impressive, and it really says a lot about his talent that he's managed to write all of these songs, perform all of these songs, and just create this movie. I'm not sure if it is a movie, to be honest. It's a comedy special, but I'm counting it as a movie for this, because I feel like it basically is. But the songs that he performs really just talk about the way we're all feeling, or the way we were all feeling during the pandemic. We're all stuck inside, we're all bored, we're all just living a weird, different life, and I feel like he really captures that really well. He captures the sort of the isolated feeling that everyone had, especially like if you're living by yourself, you probably felt that really badly. And just the satirizing of a lot of different things like social media, going after Amazon and things like that. You've probably heard his songs about Jeffrey Bezos, let's be honest, everyone has. And upon recording this video, they're all stuck in my head again. And he just creates this incredible atmosphere where you just really relate to it, and you're like, yeah, this is absolutely fucking miserable. This is just awful. And it's a lot of parodies, and it's a lot of, like I said, satirizing other stuff. especially social media. He goes after social media a lot, which I feel like is 100% fair, because it feels heavy a lot of the time. You know, it's something that everyone is on, except for a few people I know who are just like, I never joined Facebook, and I'm like, lucky you. Or Twitter, and all that stuff, and yeah, I don't know how to describe it, other than the fact that you should definitely watch it, because it's really interesting, and I feel like we can all relate to it, and I feel like he's a very, very talented guy, Bo Burnham, but he's also got a lot going on in his head that some of us can definitely relate to, just feeling alone and feeling isolated and, you know, just anxiety and depression and all of that. And he just captures the feeling of that pandemic so well with all of that, but while keeping it still funny. Like, it's still light, it's not crushing, but it makes you feel a lot of feelings. And it's a really hard film to describe, and I feel like it's just one that you should watch for yourself if you have the time and the want to do it. It's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. And also I'm realizing as I record this that there's 2 musicals in here, which is not what I expected actually from me. I don't watch a lot of musicals, but there's 2 of them, and we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, on to the next one, which is another musical. It's a film called Tick, Tick, Boom that came out in the last month or so. It was in cinemas and on Netflix, and it features Andrew Garfield in a very interesting singing role, which I'd never seen him do before, and he does a fantastic job of it. He's a really, really talented singer, actually, which is not that it's not what I expected, but it's not something that I think of when I'm thinking about Andrew Garfield. Obviously, I'm going towards, Spider-Man first, obviously, is one of his biggest roles, but I tend to think of him more as like an action and comedy actor more than a singer, which is what he does in this film, and he's great at it. It's based on a true story about a musical theatre composer called Jonathan Larson, and sort of the start of his musical career in the early 90s. Essentially, he has what I feel like a lot of us have, which is a ticking in your head that makes you not want to rush things, but really want to get something done. And he describes that ticking in the very first song as he's reaching the age of 30. And he feels like once he reaches 30, he's, I suppose, over the hill is what he feels like it is, which obviously we know it's really not. But he's desperate to really put something down on paper before he reaches the age of 30. And this film follows, like I said, the start of his musical career, writing all of these songs and planning this musical that he eventually wants to perform in New York, while also juggling work in a diner. And it also dives a little bit into the AIDS and HIV pandemic at the start of the 90s. A lot of his friends, a lot of people that he knew were sadly affected by that, and that really comes across in the film. You see that quite a lot, the relation to that, and also his relationships with his friends and with his girlfriend while trying to do this musical. And the musical is the one sort of thread throughout it that he's constantly thinking about while all this other stuff is going on, and really trying to juggle that. And it's really interesting. It's a really interesting, like I said, I don't really watch that many musicals. Do really love La La Land. That's one of my favourite films. Fantastic. But I very rarely watch films like this, but this one interested me. And it interested me enough that I went, and after the film, went and looked up loads of stuff about the real people involved in this. And I feel like the film really captures it quite well. Judging from what I've read, I can't really, it's not like I knew these people myself. But it's very intriguing. It draws you in pretty well. The music is really catchy. I feel like I've been singing 3090 for the past several weeks. It's just stuck in my head. That's the way I live now. And I'm really glad that I'm doing this without a script, because I'm just rambling now. I'm just rambling. But yeah, it's a fantastic film. It really captures the feel of the early 90s, which is something that I didn't experience myself, but it's something that I heard a lot about, especially the HIV and AIDS pandemic that was going on. And it's just super interesting. I feel like I learned a lot, actually. It's about a country that I have only visited once, but I feel like that film told me a lot, even through music. I learned a lot about it, so yeah, I definitely recommend that one as well. I'm just definitely recommending all of these. I'm going to keep saying it, I'm going to recommend them. And you might watch them. You should. They're very good. Also on Netflix, like I said. So you can save money as well as watching a good film. But yeah, Tick Tick Boom, fantastic. Really digs into this corporate culture that he's really trying to avoid. But also he's kind of stuck in this place where his friends are saying, you're not making any money making music. Why don't you get involved in a corporate culture? Don't do it. Okay, the last one I'm going to fully talk about is obviously Spider-Man No Way Home. There's no way of avoiding it. It is easily my favourite film of the year. It's absolutely incredible. I'm not going to spoil anything from it for obvious reasons. The biggest reason is because I'm not a dick and I hate when people spoil movies. So I'm not going to spoil anything about it. What I will say is that if you are a Marvel fan, as I always have been, you need to see it. And I feel like if you are a big Marvel fan, you've probably already seen it by the time you've seen this video, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's absolutely stunning. I cried. I'm not going to lie about it. I cried. It was... A lot of people have talked about the impacts that superhero movies have made on Hollywood and the film industry. And a lot of people have said, yep, they're fantastic. That's exactly the way movies should be. It should be a collective experience for everyone in the theatre. You can cheer if you want. We don't do it in England. We don't clap. We don't clap in the cinema in England. I heard a lot of laughing and a lot of crying in that cinema, though. And that's totally understandable, because that film is so much closure for some fans, just wrapped up in a beautiful little gift basket. And I massively enjoyed it. It's probably my new favourite MCU film. It's absolutely stunning, and it really just kicks that opinion that superhero movies don't mean anything just straight down the street. Because it's stunning. It's 2.5 hours, it's hefty, it's very meaty, it has a lot of characters in it, and just a lot of stuff going on. But the way it develops a few characters is incredible, really. I feel like it's the end to a trilogy, but it's the start of so much more than that. Just, you gotta see it. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's exactly what I wanted from that film. And unfortunately, like, a few things about it were spoiled for me before I went in, and that did not diminish it in the slightest. Because the stuff that was spoiled for me happened, and it just meant so much to me that I didn't care, that I already knew it was going to happen. I saw it coming from a mile away, and I loved every second of it. And it really just wraps everything up so nicely, while also setting up, like I said, a lot more. And it's really just a beautiful movie. It looks stunning, special effects incredible, actors' performances absolutely blew me away, some of them. Some of those actors feel like they were born to play that character, and I really can't stress that enough. So, like I said, if you are a Marvel fan, you just need to see it. You just 100% need to see it, because it's absolutely stunning. I saw a comic the other day, there was a guy staring at a glass, just a glass of water, and the caption was, "That glass better be full." And that was our expectations for that film. Our expectations were so high for No Way Home, and at least in my case, my expectations were met 1,000 times over, and it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I feel like that was a really nice way to end the year. And I'm probably not going to see any more movies this year, or at least any more movies in the cinema this year. I know The Matrix is out, but... And The Kingsman as well is out, but I feel like No Way Home was the perfect way to end 2021. And that's just the way it's going to be. Okay, I included 2 musicals, so I'm also going to include 2 MCU films. This was kind of a top 5 video. I said it's like top 5-ish is where it's ended up. I do want to just give a special mention to Shang-chi as well, which was another of the MCU films that came out earlier this year. It's a real step in a far-off direction for Marvel to do a film like that, and mostly to be brave enough to do a lot of it not in English, which they actually said that they were worried about. They were worried what the audience response was going to be, and at least in my case, I thought it was a stunning idea. I really, really enjoyed it, subtitles and all. Some people hate subtitles. I am totally fine with them, and I'm really glad that they stuck to it and did a lot of that film not in English. Because it felt so much more authentic, and it really added to the feel of the movie. And the movie itself is stunning. It's absolutely just beautiful. And it's probably my new favourite MCU solo movie. I don't think I can really count No Way Home as a solo movie, because it really isn't, obviously with Doctor Strange and so many other people in it. But Shang-Chi as like an origin story is just fantastic. It's really, really nice. I'm really happy that I saw it in the cinemas and could see it on a big screen, because it's just lovely. It's just lovely. So while this is a top 5-ish video, just wanted to add in a special mention for that as well, because it's fantastic. And I'm really, really liking the direction that the Marvel series is going. They've got a really good mix of cosmic fuckery and just fuckery. Cosmic fuckery and also street level stuff. Obviously we've had all the TV shows and stuff as well. I probably will do another video about TV shows from this year, because there are a lot of really good ones as well. Kind of at this point just hoping that this video was somewhat coherent, because I just talk shit. I just ramble, but I really wanted to talk about some of these movies, and yeah. I've said it several times, I just want to recommend all 5-ish movies that I've talked about here, because I think people of all kind of age groups and just every kind of person can appreciate films like this, because they're all wonderful experiences. So hopefully you've gained something from this video. I don't even know if... Never mind Shang-Chi, I don't even know if most of this video was in English, to be honest. It's pretty late at night. I'm just talking to a camera. But hopefully you've enjoyed this one. And I'll probably catch you in another video about some TV shows later on. Let's see if I can get it done before New Year. I'll see you next time.